Well, guys, New York is doing it. They're going after it. So now Letitia James just came out and basically said, not even basically, she flat out said that they are going to seize Trump's buildings if he can't pay. Mind you, he has to pay the $355 million in damage and then $100 million in prejudgment interest. And she stated that they'll go after his building. She actually said she looks at his 40 Wall Street skyscraper every day or thinks about it every day. In other words, she wants it. And in this whole claim of, well, there were victims, I think a lot of people don't realize what's going on in this. And they say, well, you know, it must have been brought by some victims. No, it was brought by the government. It was brought by her. And when people say, well, there are no victims, this is what she said. Financial frauds are not victimless crimes. He engaged in this massive amount of fraud. It wasn't just a simple mistake, a slight oversight. The variations are wildly exaggerated, and the extent of the fraud was staggering. If average New Yorkers went into a bank and submitted false documents, the government would throw the book at them, and the same should be true for former presidents. He didn't submit any false documents. And if you need to go no further than Kevin O'Leary and listen to some of the interviews he's doing, talking about this, the guy flat out says, I don't really care about Trump. I heard he's got some other cases. But this, he's not a massive Trump supporter. He's not a MAGA guy. He's a real estate developer who's saying he did everything everybody does, and he's getting nailed for it. And this is insane because what the government is doing is saying they are going to determine the negotiation for you. And what will happen with this is, of course, if Trump doesn't pay on time, which he has like $18,000 in interest per day that's getting racked up on this whole thing, if he doesn't pay in time, they'll start seizing his assets. And guess who appraises the value of those assets? The government. So what do you think the government's going to do if they've already said that Mar-a-Lago, which is a massive property, they said it was worth $20 million. Mind you, properties next door, 10th of the size, are like $40 million. They said he overvalued it. They said it's worth $20 million. So now, what do you think they're going to do with like a skyscraper that might be worth $500 million or $1 billion or whatever it's worth, right? What they'll do is they'll say, oh, this is worth $10 million. This is worth $15 million. And Trump will have no recourse because it's a government appraisal. The government will seize it, and then guess what they'll do? They'll turn around and sell it for the normal value. This is ludicrous. This is dangerous. And I invite anybody who thinks, well, Trump's a soulless, evil, awful guy, to actually look into what happened with the case. And don't look at the MSNBCs and the CNNs because you won't look for what's not there. If you look at the timeline of the case, the Trump case, the judge flat out said at the beginning, well, you're already guilty. He said there was fraud. We're not even going to debate this. The rest of the case was just determining basically how much he was going to get penalized for it. Everybody that came as witnesses in the case that he did business with, Deutsche Bank included, said, no, this was par for the course practice. And if you don't understand how the practice works, stop talking about it until you figure it out. But they said it's par for the course. We appreciate it. He was a whale. We wanted to do business with him. It's never gone bad with him. The thing is, he's always paid off his debts, too. You may say, oh, all his businesses go bankrupt. 1% of his businesses go bankrupt. And frankly, if you think that you're an entrepreneur, a business person, and you're going big, that things aren't going to happen, you're not going to fall on your face, you've never owned a business before. You've never taken a risk. So these people said, everything's in order. Judge says, $355 million. That's going to be the penalty. What the government is telling you is that your valuation of your property, of your assets, which they require you to do every year for your taxes if you own a business, well, your numbers aren't trustworthy. So at any point, they can come to you and say, well, you're committing fraud because that's a false valuation. We don't agree with that. Then they seize your assets, and then they'll sell off your assets to their buddies for the normal price. And who's this money going to? The money that he pays, or when the assets are seized and then sold off and all of that, Who's that going to? The people of New York? They'll tell you that, but it's not the people. The people don't get that money. It's just like the big banks that paid their fine after 2008 stock collapse. Something like $2 billion worth of damages. Who'd that go to? Special interest groups, government projects. New York is getting their payday on the backs of a businessman doing something that everybody does. And if you don't understand that process, here's how it goes. When you go for a loan, say a construction loan, you've got to put up assets. Well, you go in and you have a building that's worth what you say is $500 million. You go to them, you say, I need a $200 million loan. Here's this building that's worth $500 million. Bank says, nah, we think it's $300 million. You come back, no, well, here's all my numbers. Here's why I think so. Let's do $400 million. Bank says, yeah, okay. The value of that asset the bank agreed to with you is, okay, that asset, that property is worth $400 million. Here's your $200 million. That's what happened. There was nothing else in this. And you might think there's something under the rug. There's something that they're not telling you. There's something behind the doors or behind the scenes. No, nothing. Everybody who comes into a bank looking for a loan and puts up assets is going to put forward their best valuation. Just like if you want to date a supermodel, you're not going to present your worst angle, are you? You're going to present your best. You're going to dress your best. You're going to get your nicest car. You may even rent a car. You're going to pad your resume. If you try to go for a job, are you going to write down, well, I did fries at McDonald's for a couple hours a week, and that's all I did? No. You know what you're going to say? You're going to say, created and developed a more efficient system of culinary arts, right? You're going to puff it up a little bit. You're going to put your best foot forward. Everybody does it. What drives me insane is that so many people do not realize how absolutely communist this is. This is Venezuela. This is the tipping point in my book, because now private property has no value outside of the eyes of what the government says it is. This is truly Chavez walking down the street going, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. That's what it is. This is that moment. This is where the government has pulled out all the stops, and the only thing the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, can say, no, it's a totally different situation. Bad behavior by him. What happens when they decide you have bad behavior? Please, if you love this content, be sure to subscribe, click that notification bell, go to our site, theselfevidenttruth.com, get up to date on our events, what we've got going, get yourself a t-shirt, get yourself some merch. We're here for you. We're going to keep coming out with this stuff just for you. We love you guys. Have a great day.